My name's Alex. This is kind of my background. My background is journalism, kind of creative journalism. I'm a freelance editor. I work in publishing as well. Currently working for MTV with kind of a creativity blog. And also I work as a digital strategist. So kind of working with brands to kind of show them how to use tools such as Facebook and Twitter, which to you and I might seem really obvious. But to kind of bigger companies, it's kind of they know they have to, but they don't know why they should have a Facebook or Twitter. They don't really get it. So that's kind of my bread and butter. So yeah, my background was starting off at places like The Guardian, just interning, kind of finding out how, just seeing the dynamics, how a publication or a blog works from the inside rather than just seeing it from the outside. I also kind of worked for D&AD for a while, back when I was still in university, and also kind of doing odds and sods for The Face, mostly research and like a little tiny bit of writing. But The Face was kind of one of the main influences on kind of what I enjoyed reading. It was always kind of just an amazing magazine. It always kind of set itself apart from the other style mags, I think. The magazine that I worked at for a while was called Marmalade, which incidentally won a D&AD back in, I think it's 2005, for magazine design, yellow pencil. And it was kind of it had a very kind of fanzine aesthetic. It was kind of special because it wasn't really a style magazine. It wasn't really just about the media. It was kind of a hodgepodge of different things. And it had some kind of very famous contributors like Irvin Welsh, Zoe Williams from The Observer as well. But also it kind of had students, people still in university, still in college, who were hired and actually paid, unlike most magazines, they're actually paid to kind of contribute. But it was a stunning little magazine that kind of, I think it borrowed heavily on the kind of fanzine aesthetic of cut and paste, and they used to play around with it a lot. But it was a nice little magazine, and I used to kind of contribute mostly to the kind of upfront section of kind of new trends and stuff like that, under my editor, Francesca Gavin, who works for places like D&AD and also the broadsheets. When I was at Marmalade, I was kind of given free rein to explore their digital side. Basically, they had a really beautiful, elaborate kind of homepage that didn't do very much. I mean, everything was cut out and pasted just like there. So you had like the email, like mail@marmaladeworld.com, but you couldn't actually click on it. There was zero functionality, so that was a bit frustrating. And this was around about the time when kind of social networking really came to the fore with MySpace. So I kind of nagged my editors to please be able to do something on MySpace. And they were kind of, I think they saw it as a very kiddie kind of thing, as a very kind of young kind of throwaway thing. And they were like, yeah, knock yourself out, do what you like. And I kind of saw the potential for distribution. I think that's one thing that's been touched upon tonight. The problem with independent magazines and distribution is that it's very difficult. It is incredibly difficult because in some instances you can sign up with a distributor and they'll take at least 50% plus kind of payments for shipping as well. So it makes it incredibly difficult for independent magazines to kind of sell via what used to be Borders, WH Smith. But also on the other hand, if you have relationships with kind of like the ICA or Magma, it's fantastic because they're very open to kind of new publications. But also there's the payment factor where, an outlet like Magma can be amazing, but they can take up to 6 or 7 months to pay, which kind of stops you from creating your next issue. So the kind of thing that I wondered was how far we could push PayPal on social networking, and how far I could outdo our massive distributor, which was Borders. So my idea was to start selling the magazine online via MySpace, and obviously using MySpace to create a network of different people. And these were purely creative people because obviously you all know how spam works on Facebook and MySpace, and you kind of get people following you, so you get bands from Alabama who've never heard of you, but they see the magazine and they spot the potential for self-promotion. You get lots of friends collectors. It's just there's a lot of spam out there, so this was always vetted. People used to request to be Marmalade's friend, and obviously if they had any hint of creativity, then it was fine. If you saw that it was kind of an opportunistic kind of thing, or they just weren't interested in anything related to what we covered, then obviously it was denied. And this is kind of much the approach I've taken with Fever as well, because we do get a lot of people kind of self-promoting their bands, and they're from America or from Canada or even from the UK, but they've got zero interest in the zine or in design or illustration or creativity. You know, they're just interested in kind of getting a review in a zine or a magazine. So yeah, I was kind of let loose on that. And I remember telling my editor that their MySpace would be their biggest outlet. And I remember them kind of laughing at me, almost like in a motherly way, like, there, you know, stop talking rubbish. And that's kind of what it became. It became their biggest outlet. So we were shifting thousands of copies every 2 to 3 months. So it was really surprising, and that's when they kind of invested in the design, because before this it was much more cut and paste than this. So yeah, that's kind of my background. But I think, as with most journalists or artists or even graphic designers, if you're working under a boss, say under an editor or a creative director or art director, I think you always get frustrated because of the lack of freedom that you have. And I certainly experienced that with Marmalade. I thought it was a fantastic magazine. My editors were really good. But also, I always kind of hit this wall where if I had an idea to write about someone, to write about an artist or a designer, if they weren't almost trendy enough, then they wouldn't make the cut. And obviously that really bugged the hell out of me. So I kind of started experimenting with stuff like blogging and just blogging about random stuff, not really anything, you know, there wasn't any particular focus, it was just kind of what interested me. But then I kind of realized that obviously my passion was magazines, my passion was something physical, not purely electronic. So that's kind of when I came up with Fever, which is just a self-produced zine of stuff that I really liked. And I kind of got talking to different people over the net, mostly MySpace back then, and just inviting them, you know, do you want to collaborate? And just being really upfront as well, because I know there's always this issue of money as well. So just being really upfront, saying there is no budget right now. If we make money in, say, a year or so, because obviously the time frames are really long, then you'll get paid. So there was never an expectation of like, you know, I'm going to make money off this. But the good thing is that this year, finally, it's 3 years on, but still, I've kind of started to be, I've got the ability to actually start paying people. Even though it's backdated, it's really appreciated as well, even from people who didn't expect it. So that's quite nice. But yeah, Fever. It was kind of just a mixture of different things, music, art, just anything that interested me really, and kind of commissioning different illustrators, artists to kind of create work for it. My background wasn't in design, as you can tell, so my kind of design tool was Microsoft Word, which I know is really lame, but this is kind of how I used to do it. I used to drop stuff into text boxes. So I'd drop each image into text boxes, scan the kind of trace type as well, everything in text boxes, and that was my way of arranging it. And I thought it looked good, obviously, because I knew about design, but obviously I didn't have any skills in it. So I thought, okay, it looks okay, it looks decent. And again, using just the kind of things that I've been thinking about at Marmalade, just about using networking to kind of find your audience. I think it's really important to find your audience if you're an artist or an editor or a self-publisher, because I think a lot of people produce a lot of amazing work and never ever find their audience. You know, you get a zinester who might produce something really beautiful but doesn't know how to self-promote, doesn't know how to get it out there or how to find that audience. And that was always really my focus, to kind of make sure that I found my audience with Fever. Which it wasn't a niche audience, it was just anyone who was into creativity and liked kind of illustration or photography, or that was kind of my audience. And then I met this guy, who's over there. Yeah, no, he changed it. It's at Wybray now, if you want to tweet him. But Simon Wybray was kind of this name that you used to hear about in design circles, and kind of just like a really well-known, prolific young graphic designer. Speaking about you like you're dead, sorry. But yeah, he kind of messaged me on MySpace and just said, hey, do you kind of need... I remember he bought a copy of the zine, and I was obviously saving money because I was kind of hand-delivering the zine where I could. And I remember taking it to his studio and kind of giving it to Simon without even speaking to him. I was like, there you go, and off I went. Then he kind of dropped me an email saying, do you want a hand with your design? And I was like, yeah, that sounds good. And it took us a while to hook up, but we did. And that was actually the first day we actually met in person after I think we completed issue 2 the night before. This is at Publish and Be Damned in 2008, I think it was. So yeah, everything is always in a hurry, mostly down to me. But yeah, we completed that in like 24 hours. So he introduced InDesign into my life, which is a boon. It's been fantastic. He's kind of introduced discipline and just kind of made things a hell of a lot easier. You know, this is for like a mini zine that we did for the V&A Fate when we were part of it the year before last. It just made things 1,000 times easier. And yeah, it's nice to have someone to collaborate with. But at the beginning, it was always it was almost like a rocky relationship, because I'd always envisaged Fever as being my kind of baby. And obviously Simon was helping for free back then. So obviously there was a certain amount of freedom that I needed to give him for him to feel satisfied. And it took us a while to get there. I'm glad to say that now, these days, I can give him all the material, the copy, the images, and I'm happy with what he produces, very happy. But back then it was like, oh, why don't you change this? Or it was very annoying, and I remember having kind of angry chat conversations, saying, you know. But it's just been fantastic, and it's kind of standardized Fever in a little bit, in a way. But also kind of made it, I don't know, more coherent, I think. A little bit less lo-fi, but still kind of what I envisaged. So yeah, it's been getting a lot of attention. It's been, I think most of us have been Zine of the Month in Dazed. It's kind of been covered in Shepherd Ferry, Swindle magazine. It's been covered in The Guardian. It's been picked up on by trend spotters too, which is quite nice, because that once they write their report, it kind of leads to press, and I think they've always got their eyes open as well. So yeah, this is outdated, just to kind of give you an idea of followers and stuff, but it's quite nice that with Flickr as well, the kind of visual followers are growing really, really quickly. MySpace kind of died. But I mean, through my profession, I kind of look at the stats and I find it really interesting to see how many people have viewed my photos today, which ones they've favorited. That's kind of what I like. It's very geeky, but that's what I like. And it's opened up a lot of doors. Fever's opened up many, many doors. And this is an exhibition that we're invited to be a part of at the RCA as part of, it's like an offshoot of Show One a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. We were also invited to be part of the V&A Fate, which was incredible for me, because obviously we were there next to design studios, really established design names, and there was Fever kind of looking very lo-fi, very kind of gritty, but we were kind of, I don't know, we had a really good time. We produced like a zine sandwich. I'm sorry I don't have pictures here, but it was kind of like a die-cut kind of bread with kind of different coloured card with ink stamped illustrations on them, and in each kind of illustration had a theme of like maybe cheese or lettuce or ham or stuff like that. So that was quite nice. And also we've been a part of Publish and Be Damned many times now. But the one that I kind of personally love is the London Zine Symposium, because it's just a massive mixture of people, and it's not just, you don't just have kind of anarchist zines or queer zines or design zines. It's all a hodgepodge. And as you can see, the type of people that mix there, you kind of get more alternative, you get people wearing Urban Outfitters, you get people who are more fashion, you get people who are more kind of gritty or, I don't know, more rocky, I don't know. It's just it's a massive melting pot. And I really, really enjoy it. I look forward to it every single year. And it's kind of nice to see how the London Zine Symposium evolves as well. So from the kind of first year that I kind of attended and had a stall there, well, the first year I attended, and it was at the Horse Hospital in Bloomsbury, and it's very, very small, and it's just kind of grown and grown and grown, and now it's kind of absorbing different types of zines. It's inviting more people in, and these are kind of more newer designers as well. Stuff that you'll see this kind of stuff next to really political kind of zines. So it's kind of, you know, there's quite a contrast between what goes on. And also I really love the fact that normally they produce like a one-day zine where you kind of bring your stuff, you contribute, and they print it right there and then. It's quite a nice souvenir to have. So yeah, and kind of Fever interacts with all these different zines. It's just nice that you get to kind of meet the zinesters on the day. You get to see what they're producing, what they've got that's new. And this year I was lucky enough to actually work on the main zine table at the London Zine Symposium. So it's even better for me than having my own Fever stall, because with kind of having your own store, normally people come and they'll read, and if it's not their cup of tea, they'll just walk away. Whereas with the main zine table, there's a lot more interaction, and you get to know a lot more zines that way. One of the things that we do, that Fever does, is it helps, or tries to help, as many people as possible, I guess. Just that we get a lot of questions. We've got a lot of people kind of interacting with us, asking from really kind of light stuff to like, oh, how should I lay my blog out, to really heavy stuff like, I'm thinking of quitting university. What do you think? And it's like, what can you know? How can you answer that? So everything gets even with a little delay, everything gets an answer. And where we can help, we help. So, if we know people at a design studio, say at Nation Studio, that are looking for an intern, then we can always hook them up with the gentleman over there, Lewis, who is, needing that first step into the design industry. So off he went to Nation Studio, made friends with the creative director, really part of that kind of family now. But it's fantastic because then that's kind of a leaping stone to, stepping stone to other things. But it's kind of, that's kind of what we do, as much as possible anyway. So whether it's, like I said, really heavy stuff to really light stuff, a lot of the stuff that we get asked is about kind of Facebook stuff as well. Is it better to have a group than a page, this, that, and the other? And it's always about some sort of, some question to do with self-promotion. And just getting their work out. Who should I send my zine to, or who should I send my work to? What's the best way of kind of contacting a creative director? And I'm always really happy to help. Like I said, with a little bit of a delay because of work and stuff. But there's always an answer, and I'm always really happy to give it. So some of the stuff that I've done, apart from Fever, but thanks to Fever, because obviously it's been covered in places like Media Guardian, which has allowed me to kind of work for creative agencies. There's a magazine I work for called Anorak, which is fantastic. It's a really beautiful magazine. It's published by Cathy Olmedius, who was the publisher of Sleaze Nation. And also it's all art directed by Rob Lowe, who's also known as Super Mundane, who is the art director at Sleaze Nation. It's a really amazing kind of kids mag. It was fantastic. I met Cathy working at that creative agency work club. And she was very kind of social phobic. She really didn't get the point of Facebook. Why should I have a Facebook? Why should I put pictures on there? Well, it's not really about you. It's about your brand. And if you need more sales, then you've got to kind of make that extra leap. So I kind of introduced her to Facebook, and she's kind of now addicted to it. To be honest, she loves it, and it works for her. It works for her really, really well. And it's also given her the impetus to kind of step it up from the kind of really, she won't mind me saying, but she had a really crap website that a friend had done for her. And now it's a really beautiful, interactive, animated website. And, that's kind of come from Facebook, from the extra money that she's made from Facebook. She's invested it in her website, and it looks beautiful. And obviously, it's kind of, it's just spiraling now because more people are visiting the website because there's a blog and there's content. And obviously, they're buying Anorak and subscribing. And it's just going really, really well. And it's nice to be able to help magazines like that because, I'd rather a kid was reading something like Anorak than some kind of generic Disney crap that you buy in Tesco's. It's going really, really well. With our kind of contributors, like I said at the beginning, there's always a very clear understanding of payment. If there's payment, it won't be just yet. Payment's always intended, even when I say there's no budget whatsoever. I always know that a couple of years down the line, once there is a little bit of budget, they will get their fair share for their contribution. With people like Julia Pott, Robbie Wilkinson as well, who's another really talented illustrator who's contributed, we try to help out as much as we can. So if Julia Pott, who's really prolific in kind of creating stuff like, she creates tote bags, prints, all sorts, if there's any way in which we can help, then we do. So I kind of encourage her, set up this, set up a little group and just start posting, start getting your stuff out there, and I'll invite Fever, like our Fever friends basically, because Fever is a profile rather than a page. It has the ability to kind of send a giant amount of people in certain directions. So whether it's a very lo-fi exhibition in Peckham, let's say, or whether it's something like Julia Pott's illustration group, if it raises their profile, then that's fantastic. And if it raises the profile of this gallery or this exhibition or this event, then that's even better. But the following that we have is really, really loyal. It's fantastic following. So when we do tweet about stuff or post about stuff, it kind of gets replicated. It kind of filters down. So we're friends on Facebook with quite a few bloggers, creativity bloggers. So when we do post about stuff, you might see it the next day or that very same day on their blog or on their Facebook or on their Twitter. So it's quite nice. We try to highlight a lot of independent stuff, a lot of kind of smaller stuff as well, and a lot of stuff from around the country, because I think a lot of magazines and a lot of zines tend to concentrate a lot on London. They're very London-centric or Central St. Martin-centric, which is fantastic. Central St. Martin's is a good university, but there are other creative universities, there are other creative courses around the country, and there are students that don't go to Central St. Martin's who are producing amazing work. And they're kind of that's the kind of stuff that I love highlighting. One of the things that all this has done is opened up doors that I never imagined would be opened, to kind of lecturing and stuff. So I've been invited to guest lecture at places like Winchester School of Art, the Nottingham School of Art and Design as well. And it's kind of leading to, it's proved relevant to what they're trying to do. They're trying to get their students to obviously get on the self-promotion, to figure out how to use digital, all the stuff that I normally talk about with Fever. So it's tied in really nicely. But it's also led to kind of invitations to be more than just a guest lecturer. So they're kind of inviting me to get involved on the kind of self-publishing modules, and just kind of advise what's the best way, what should we do, or actually just literally get involved, come in and do kind of 3 lectures in a term, assess work, give them a brief, or help set the module. So this is the kind of thing I talk to them about, which you'd think would be covered in kind of academic syllabuses, but it really isn't. I mean, it's lacking completely. So like I said, you do get kind of young artists, or you get people in university producing amazing work, or they don't really understand how to get it out there. They don't really understand how to set up a website. They think, I've talked to people before and said, when are you gonna get your website out? And they're like, oh, I don't know, I've got to learn HTML first. And it's like, well, no, you don't. You can just find a graphic designer who needs the experience and do a trade with him. No graphic designer, web designer, sorry. Or just use kind of the publishing platforms that are available, like Carbon Space, stuff like that, or even Blogspot and Tumblr, just really simple stuff, and get your work out there. Don't wait till you've got an amazing, flashy website, because it's no use. Just get your work out there. So that's kind of one of the things that it's done. It's kind of opened the doors to this kind of teaching role, which is kind of, it's amazing, but it's nerve-wracking, but it's amazing. Just lastly, I should have included this before, with various publications or various editors, there's always a focus. So with stuff like itsnicestat.com, you have a focus on Brighton. With boom.com, you have a focus on Toronto and Vancouver. With many stuff, I think I can't remember what city in France it is, but there's a focus that's very local. So people will cover stuff from all around the world, but there will always be a preference. And with Fever, the preference is my hometown of Liverpool, which you wouldn't really be able to hear it in my accent, but I was born and bred there. And again, it's that thing of there is amazing stuff going on in Liverpool, especially since the capital of culture in 2008. But it's not something that gets talked about. It gets talked about very rarely. There's always the focus is always mainly on London. So that's why obviously it's nice that focus more on Brighton. They kind of push their kind of cities. And I try and push mine very subtly, but I try and push Liverpool as much as I can, and kind of the stuff that's going on, like the biennial, which is happening right now. So yeah, and I think that's it. Sorry to ramble, I'm really knackered. So cheers, thank you.